Welcome to the IELTS Secrets podcast, your guide to acing the speaking section of the IELTS exam. I'm your host, Neil, and today we're discussing places of interest. Question 1. What kinds of places in your country are threatened by buildings or other types of progress? Why? When answering this question, it's crucial to follow a structured approach. Let's break it down using our speaking template. I would assume that then you need to mention the type of place, for example, historical sites or natural habitats. The main reason would be, and then explain why these places are threatened, for example, urbanization or industrial development. Consequently, and then describe the potential consequences, such as loss of cultural heritage or destruction of ecosystems. And now let's listen to a Band 9 response.
What kinds of places in your country are threatened by buildings or other types of progress?
I would assume that historical sites in my country are threatened by buildings and other types of progress. The main reason would be rapid urbanization and the increasing demand for space for residential and commercial purposes. Consequently, these historical sites risk being demolished or altered to make way for new developments, leading to the loss of our cultural heritage and identity.
Question 2. Do you think preserving historical areas in countries is important? Why? Now, let's structure our response using the provided template. I'm convinced that it's of vital importance to preserve historical areas in countries for two reasons. Firstly, then you should mention the significance of preserving history. For example, understanding our roots. As a result, and then explain the positive outcomes, for example, fostering a sense of national pride and identity. Secondly, and then introduce another reason, for example, attracting tourists and boosting the economy. This approach will lead to, and then emphasize the benefits, for example, sustainable development and cultural enrichment. And now let's listen to a Band 9 response.
Do you think preserving historical areas in countries is important?
I am convinced that it is of vital importance to preserve historical areas in countries for two reasons. Firstly, preserving our history allows us to understand our roots and appreciate how our forebears lived. As a result, it fosters a sense of national pride and identity, strengthening our cultural fabric. Secondly, historical areas attract tourists, contributing to the local economy through tourism revenue and job creation. This approach will lead to sustainable development and cultural enrichment for future generations.
Question 3. How can governments protect places of interest? Moving on to the next question, let's use our speaking template. Well, it could be done by, and then suggest a method. For example, implementing strict regulations. For example, and then provide an example of effective protection measures. For example, declaring certain areas as heritage sites. As a result, and then explain the positive outcomes, such as preservation of cultural and natural treasures. And now let's listen to a Band 9 response.
How can governments protect places of interest?
Well, it could be done by implementing strict regulations to safeguard places of interest. For example, governments could declare certain areas as heritage sites, imposing restrictions on development activities. As a result, we will be able to ensure the preservation of our cultural and natural treasures for future generations to cherish and enjoy.
Question 4. What sort of places will be of interest to people in the future? For our final question, let's structure our response using the provided template. It's expected that then mention the type of places, such as sustainable ecotourism destinations. It's also predicted that, and then highlight another type, for example, virtual reality museums, These fascinating places are expected to then describe the anticipated appeal, such as offer immersive experiences. And now let's listen to a Band 9 response.
What sort of places will be of interest to people in the future?
It is expected that sustainable ecotourism destinations will be of interest to people in the future. It is also predicted that virtual reality museums will gain in popularity. These fascinating places are expected to offer immersive experiences, allowing visitors to explore diverse ecosystems and interact with history in innovative ways.
Dear IELTS candidates, remember to use these templates to structure your responses and maximize your speaking score. Send your audio responses to our website for professional evaluation and personalized feedback. Tune in the IELTS Speaking podcast next time for more tips and strategies on mastering the IELTS exam. Until then, happy practicing.